Hello everyone, this is Lam here. In today's Adobe Wednesday, I want to talk about some basic video effects that you can do to any of your clips. This is something that I briefly touched upon last week, and I just want to go a little bit more in depth this week about these video effects. They're super simple to use, but there are a few things that you definitely want to know, and I can show it to you right now. So let's go ahead, dive right into it. So as you can see right here, I have Adobe Premiere Pro open, and I have two clips. Now, the interesting thing about these two clips is that one of them is a 1080 clip and the other one is a 4K clip. So this is something that's very important. I'm going to go ahead, drag the 1080 clip onto the timeline. The reason why I want to do this is I want to set the timeline to 1080p because that's going to be my output resolution. The other clip is actually a 4K clip, and this is going to be really important, and we're going to discuss why 4K is so useful for a 1080p export. Once I set the timeline, I can actually go ahead and delete that. This is just a very easy way to set the timeline to 1080p. I'm going to go ahead, drag in the 4K clip, and what happens is that when you drag in that 4K clip, Adobe Premiere Pro is going to be smart enough to tell that it is a 4K clip, and it's going to ask you whether or not you want to switch over to a 4K timeline. In my case, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say keep existing settings. Now, what you're going to see is that because it's a 4K clip, it's going to be cropped in. Because this is a 1080p timeline, you're not going to be able to see the entire 4K clip. So if you actually highlight the clip and you go over here to scaling, you can actually scale it back to about 50% to see the full resolution clip. The reason why this is important is because this gives you a lot of leeway to work with the image that you otherwise would not be able to do if you're recording only in 1080p. For example, what you can do at the beginning of the clip, you can actually set a keyframe, or in this case, it's also called toggle animation. If you toggle that animation, what we do is that wherever your head is, wherever this line is right here, we're going to set that at, say, 50. We can move ahead in the timeline. I'm going to mute this real quick so we don't get any weird sounds. Let's go ahead and get to about 10 seconds. And then we can set this back to 100. So we're going from a scaled back image to a one-to-one image. So if you let that play, what you see is you see a nice digital zoom that Adobe Premiere Pro is giving you. What's really great about this is that since it's a 4K clip, when you zoom in, you're actually not losing any resolution. You're not losing any quality or any detail. This is the reason why people that are producing 1080p videos prefer to have a 4K camera, because it allows them to have this type of flexibility. If you were to zoom in this far with a 1080p clip, you're going to see pixelation, you're going to see loss of detail. That's what happens. But with a 4K image, you're not going to see any of that. So that's what I want to cover this week. These are the basic animations that come with every video clip that Adobe Premiere Pro does really well right out of the box. The next one I want to cover is the position animation. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move my head all the way back to 0 again. I'm going to unclick the scale so that I can remove that. I'll set this back to 50 just as a nice round number. And then what I want to do is I just want to zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to double click on the image so I can center this. And what I want to do is I want to move this all the way to one side. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and toggle on the position animation. I'll go ahead and move back or move forward the timeline to about 10 seconds. I'm not trying to be very precise here. And then I'll double click on the image. And what I want to do is I want to move this image to the other side. And you'll notice that there's this line that's coming across. This is going to be the position animation move right here. So this is already set. I'm going to go ahead, move the head back to 0 again, press the space bar, and as you can see, it gives me a nice smooth digital slide. This is something that you can do in the real world, of course, but it's hard to actually reproduce such a smooth slide. To let Adobe Premiere Pro do it for you is a great thing to have. The last one I want to cover in terms of basic effects is the rotation one. Now this particular image is actually not very good for the rotations one because it's not shot directly top down. To use this really effectively, you definitely want to use videos that are shot from the top down to whatever you're trying to capture. But I'm going to show it to you anyways, real quick. Going to go ahead, remove the position animation. I'm going to go ahead and toggle the rotation animation. Do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward about 10 seconds. And then I will go ahead and just, well, that's a little too much. You can tell that this is the reason why it's not a good idea to do too much of it, because you really do need to be careful. So if I let this go, you can see that it's doing a very smooth rotational image. Again, this is best done when it's from a top-down perspective. Now, I showed all these individually. You can combine any of these in whatever way you want, and it can create some really amazing effects. Again, this is the reason why 4K cameras are so useful. If you're going to be producing content in 1080p, definitely try to record in 4K as much as you can. And if you're producing out in 4K, this is the reason why a lot of people are looking for 6 and maybe even 8K cameras. Hopefully that is very useful to you and you can incorporate that into your videos, and it's a very easy way to make your still images much more interesting. That's it for this week. Hopefully you've learned something new. Let me know what you think, and until next time, have a good one.